As is the case for any Prime Minister, the RCMP provides a protective service for the Prime Minister and my family, and does an excellent job of that. It has been the case for all Prime Ministers in the past and certainly into the future that wherever they go, whenever they travel, they require a professional and excellent RCMP detail. I'm not going to question the job or the choices that the RCMP makes. That is something that I think all Canadians can take pride in, the excellence and the abilities of the RCMP to do their job.
The ethics inquiry into Trudeau's trip was launched after complaints by two Conservative MPs, including current party leader Andrew Scheer. The CBC's Elizabeth Thompson filed that Freedom of Information request, and she's in Ottawa. So, Elizabeth, why the big difference in the cost estimates now from $127,000 to $215,000?
Well, Andrew, when you're Prime Minister, you can't exactly just grab a backpack and start hitchhiking across the country or around the world. Any time you go someplace, it is going to cost money. And in this case, the government initially told Parliament that it had cost $127,000 for all of the things that had to accompany the Prime Minister. There's the RCMP security detail. There is a Privy Council technician who had to go down there and set up a secure office. There is a global affairs courier who had to bring 400 pounds of equipment down there with diplomatic standing so it could get through customs and that. So that's what they originally told Parliament. But when we filed an access to information request, we ended up with a somewhat different result than what the RCMP originally told Parliament. Apparently, they hadn't quite processed all the bills yet by the time they had answered Parliament, and they did indicate at that time that there were still some bills that might not have been processed yet. But it turns out that the RCMP actually spent $153,000, not the $71,000 that it had told Parliament. And that brings the tab now to more than $215,000. And that's not counting the basic salaries of the RCMP. They only declare the amount of money that they spend on things like overtime, shift differentials, travel and accommodations.
So what about the ethics side of this? That's also under investigation.
Well, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister is facing an investigation by Ethics Commissioner Mary Dawson's office on two grounds. One was a complaint from Andrew Scheer. He suggested that the Prime Minister had put himself in a conflict of interest by accepting this trip to the Aga Khan's private island in the Bahamas, because the Aga Khan Foundation, which does a lot of very worthwhile development work around the world, has received a lot of money over the years from the Canadian government, millions of dollars. And it actively lobbies the Canadian government as well for money for these projects. And among the people they are registered to lobby is the Prime Minister's office. The second complaint was from Conservative MP Blaine Calkins, and he pointed out that there is a rule that says that cabinet ministers and the Prime Minister are not allowed to accept travel on private aircraft. This is something that dates from some things that happened back during Jean Chrétien's era, where some cabinet ministers were flying places at courtesy of various companies. So they decided at that point to put an end to it. Mr. Trudeau was asked about it today. Here's what he had to say.
I have always and will always fully cooperate with the Ethics Commissioner and answer and be available anytime she chooses to meet with me and has questions for me. And as I've said before as well, part of what the Ethics Commissioner has asked of us is that we not talk about ongoing investigations by the Ethics Commissioner, and I am certainly going to respect her requests on this. But I can absolutely reassure Canadians that this is something that I and our government, and indeed all parliamentarians of every party, take very seriously.
Now, Mary Dawson's office says that this is the only active investigation that they have at the moment in their office. She's been at it since January, and there's no sign of when she'll be submitting her report anytime soon.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you. The CBC's Elizabeth Thompson, live in Ottawa.